we welcome back to the program Marie Cosgrove. She's the author of Greater Fortune, Essential Lessons from the Entrepreneur Who Bought the Company That Fired Her. But she is also a resilience expert and an expert in talking about anti-bullying. She's our guest now. What is your take on Tuesday's events in Uvalde, and how can we all cope with them?
Well, I think we all agree it's a horrific event, and everybody copes with it differently. For some people, it may bring back memories of a lost one. For others, everyone responds differently. I don't think there's a correct way to respond, but it is difficult. And I think that we need to start asking ourselves questions like, how can we find out what the root causes are? What are some solutions that we can offer? Because, all we hear is on both political sides, all about guns when it's not about guns. The reality is it's a mental health issue. And that's what we need to focus on. What can we do to offer solutions and recognize the root problem so these types of situations don't spiral out of control?
Davis, you said you had a question for Marie Cosgrove.
I've talked to a number of vets over the years about who have seen it combat action. And it's a little bit voyeuristic, I will admit. And my belief is that nobody goes through like they did in World War II. That was the one without being affected by it. That it's rare. I'm talking about Americans. It's rare for them to come through and be mentally healthy, mentally stable. They, no matter who they are, what they did, especially if they were in action, and those kids were in action, they got to deal with it. It doesn't go away. It has to be dealt with, and
absolutely.
So they're in for some therapizing, which is good.
Absolutely, I agree. They definitely need therapy. Parents, they need to listen to their kids, even those that weren't in that school, because even I have grandkids now, and even they're telling me I'm worried about going back to school now because of this shooting. So it is impacting kids all over the place, and parents need to be aware. They need to listen to their kids, not judge them, but listen, make themselves available, and don't pressure them. If they don't want to talk about it, every kid's different. They respond to stress differently, to these situations differently, but it is impacting the entire nation. And we as parents, us as a community, we need to pay attention to our kids. We need to listen to them when they're ready to talk. We need to be able to address the situation in an honest way, but not too many details that's going to overwhelm them either. So we need to, pay attention to the signs. Are they having a lot of nightmares because of the situation? Are they having, the whole country can go through a PTSD because of the situation, and we need to pay attention to these signs and get them professional help if they need it.
Joining us on 710 KURV is Marie Cosgrove. She's the author.
Do you happen to know if many psychologists, professional counselors, psychiatrists are, when I say competent to deal with this, do they have the chops to deal with it? Is it beyond their ability, beyond their knowledge?
I believe that professionals who are trained in PTSD are competent to be able to address the situation, and it is finding the right healthcare professional for you. There's different personalities, different styles, but they are trained. So you'd want to look for someone who specializes in trauma, someone who specializes in PTSD, just not any counselor, because not every counselor is trained in this specific situation. And there are all types of different types of trauma, but you need to get yourself some help. And if you see, one of the things that I noticed in this story, and we've all read the news headlines, the shooter was bullied. One of the classmates said that he would cut himself. Mm-hmm. And I know from experience that cutting is a big epidemic, self-mutilation. It's an epidemic in the Valley. I have personal experience with this. My daughter, it is an epidemic down there. Everywhere, actually. My daughter was mutilated. I can talk about this because she's given me permission, but she was self-mutilating. At the time, I was really young, and I didn't have the skill set to address. I just knew that something was wrong, and I sought out professional therapy. I didn't want her medicated, so I found a treatment center in Idaho, and it was crazy expensive. It was costing over, with a disc, they gave me a discount because I was a single mom, and with my discount it was $5,000 a month. But it was worth it. Today she's a nurse. She went to school, became a nurse, then she's an entrepreneur, she's a business owner. But I got her the help she needed, and I think about, where were, I don't know, maybe someone tried to reach out to this student, but if you're a student and you have a friend, a classmate, or you hear of someone who's self-mutilating, cutting, that person's going through some pain. So maybe you can reach out to your school counselor to reach out to that student. If you're a parent and your student is acting out, maybe they're aggressive because there's stories from a neighbor that this kid and his mom did not get along. He would curse his mom out. His mom would yell at him. There were family issues. And so we need to pay attention as a community. We need to do better. What are the root causes? What are some solutions? So if you see this, if you're a parent and you don't know how to deal with your child who's out of control, or maybe they have, they're disrespecting you, maybe it's time to go to family counseling. Maybe it's time to reach out to someone. I have a friend of mine, and I'm not going to say who, a personal friend of mine. I asked permission, can I share your story if I get the opportunity? He said yes. He is a medical doctor. I know a lot of medical doctors, professionally trained, but in medicine, and has an adult child that has mental health issues. Nobody can talk to him, but when he was a teenager, he was threatening to, blow up the house, hurt the family. Never got the help. They just didn't get the help. They didn't know how to deal with it. And today, as an adult, after this story reached, they're terrified because they're thinking, now this person, their child, is an adult. He has to want to get help. Nobody will give him help. So that's something else. If there's a politician, someone listening, we need to look at the legislation out there, because there are adults out there who are suffering from PTSD. They're suffering from mental health issues. They don't want to get the help. Their families don't know how to help them, and they're all alone. Yeah. There's no one to help them because our healthcare system will not touch them. They have to voluntarily want to get the help. So we want to catch them when they're young, when they're still in school, when parents do have the authority to say, hey, I need to get you to a counselor. I need to get you help, and we're going to resolve this before they become adults. And then through legislation, we need to look at what can we do to provide mental health to adult children or adult family members that need it, that we can't get help to. Because that's a serious problem, and it's scary to think. And he was thinking, what if my son goes and does something? Because right now he's at a state where I knock on his door at his home, he won't come out. We don't know what's going on. He just won't come out. And that was a situation that was never addressed when he was a child. They thought he'd grow out of it. Mm-hmm. And then he'd be okay, go to college, be okay. He did. He went to college, but he didn't grow out of the depression. Ooh. So mental health is a serious issue.
How do you get Marie Cosgrove is our guest. She's experienced many obstacles in her life and has become a very, very successful woman. She's our guest on your 956 Drive Home. We have time for one more question. That question is, what do you do? How do you admit to yourself that you need help? And are there ways of easing that burden? It's really easy to just be like, well, I'm fine. And when you're really not fine, how do you kind of expedite the process in admitting that to yourself and reaching out?
So I think, like, for yourself personally, if to check yourself and to admit that there's a problem, you need to check your stress levels. Are you overly stressed? Do you feel overwhelmed? Do you feel like it's too much? There's nothing wrong with feeling that, because maybe you can get some counseling and you can come up with strategies to ease that stress. because stress can lead to serious mental health issues, and it can be overwhelming. I know I've had to go through counseling when I was a kid. I remember, because I was bullied. I was born to a mentally disabled single mom due to a car accident she was in, so she had permanent brain damage as a product of rape. And I remember going through depression. The teacher didn't know how to deal with it, so the teacher just said, go to the principal's office. The principal didn't know how to deal with it. They sent me to the counselor, and thank God they sent me to the counselor, because that counselor believed in me and helped me get through this depression that I was going through. And had that not happened, who knows how I might have ended up, because I wasn't on target to graduate. I didn't think I was going to graduate. And this counselor said, no, you can do it. And I did, through their help and through their assistance, through the schools. And I remember I was even afraid to walk up and get my diploma. I did not want to walk up. And they walked me through it, coached me through the process. That's how terrified I was about being in front of people. I was just so, and now I speak in front of thousands and thousands of people. You know, I've spoken in front of 30,000 people. And so I'm very passionate about mental health. I'm passionate about bullying and stopping this epidemic, because there are things we can do. And so if you're a teacher listening, and, you know, I know teachers, y'all have so many decisions to make every day. I was reading a statistic that teachers have 3,500 decisions they have to make a day. That's a lot. So that's a lot on their plate. They have to wear many hats. They have to deal with different personalities, a bunch of students. But if you see something and you may not be qualified, get them to a counselor or talk to the counselor. Get an appointment. And if you're a student, pay attention. I think as a community we need to do better. I think we can come together. We can learn from this, and we can provide assistance to those who need it. And maybe not directly, but getting them to the help that they do need, to someone who can help them.
Well, I hope that those that are listening and feel like they're in that boat right now can relate to that and find the help that they need. Thanks for your time. We really do appreciate it. That's Marie Cosgrove, resilience expert, our guest on News Talk 710 KURV.